Buddhists are called atheists because they have no respect for the Vedas. But those who defy the Vedic conclusions, as above mentioned, under the pretense of being followers of the Vedas, are verily more dangerous than the Buddhists. Now, this is a point that we need to understand. The technical expression that is used to describe and what Prabhupada calls an atheist is Nastika. Now, what is a Nastika? A Nastika is one who says Vedanam those who say that the Vedas are not authoritative, those who say that the Vedas are not authoritative literature, Vedanam Pramanyam Na Asti, they do not have this authoritativeness. These are the ones who are traditionally, technically called Nastikas or atheists. Now, in English, an atheist has a specific meaning. In English, an atheist means one who doesn't believe in God, specifically a personal God. But in Sanskrit, Nastika or an atheist actually refers to one who does not accept the authority of the Vedas. If you accept the authority of the Vedas, even if you do not accept the existence of a personal God, you are called an Astika, which is the opposite of a Nastika. An Astika, one who accepts the authority of the Veda, is called a theist. A Nastika is one who does not accept the authority of the Vedas, and he is called an atheist. So the Buddhists are called atheists by this calculation. Similarly, you have other personalities. For instance, there was a group of philosophers called Karma Mimamsakas. Karma Mimamsakas. Now the Karma Mimamsakas, they actually claimed, they actually said that that the Karma Mimamsakas, they did not even accept that there is a Supreme Personality or even the demigods. However, the Karma Mimamsakas did accept the authoritativeness of the Vedas, and therefore traditionally you would be surprised to know they are called Astikas. They are called Astikas. A Karma Mimamsaka is called an Astika or a theist. So in traditional Indian philosophy, one is typed into the Nastika and Astika category based on whether you accept the authoritativeness of the Vedas. And that is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's point here. The Buddhists are called atheists because they have no respect for the Vedas. But those who defy the Vedic conclusions, as above mentioned, under the pretense of being followers of the Vedas, are verily more dangerous than the Buddhists. So the persons who defy the Vedic conclusions here, Lord Chaitanya is talking about the Mayavadis, Shankaracharya's followers, because the Vedas have concluded that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a transcendental verity. He's transcendentally existing. But these personalities, followers of Shankaracharya, they do not accept there is a Supreme Transcendental Personality. They think that he does not exist. So even though they claim to accept the authoritativeness of the Vedas, because they deny the teaching of the transcendental aspect of the absolute truth, transcendental personal aspect of the absolute truth, Lord Chaitanya says they are simply pretending to be followers of the Vedas, and they are more dangerous than the Buddhists. The Buddhists are very open in their statements that they don't accept the authority of the Vedas. But the Mayavadis, They claim to be followers of the Vedas, but they reject Vedic authority, and therefore they are more dangerous, because you may associate with them thinking that they are accepting the authority of the Vedas, but gradually you learn that they don't actually accept the authority of the Vedas in toto, in completeness. Sri Vyasadeva very kindly compiled the Vedic knowledge in his Vedanta Sutra, but if one hears the commentation of the Mayavada school as represented by the Shankara Sampradaya, certainly he will be misled on the path of spiritual realization, because they are denying the teachings of the Vedanta Sutra, which are explicitly accepting the personality of the absolute truth. And therefore we will also be misled if we listen to them. In the Vedic system of education, it is most important that whoever we hear from should be a person who conveys the absolute truth as presented in the Veda as it is. The theory of emanations is the beginning subject of the Vedanta Sutra. All the cosmic manifestations are emanations from the absolute personality of Godhead by his inconceivable different energies. The theory of emanations. What does this mean? The theory of emanations refers to the idea that Brahman is the source of this world. Janmadyasya yataha is the source. Everything has emanated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his inconceivable different energies. By his inconceivable different energies. His energies are inconceivable. Achintya Shakti. Yes, inconceivable potency. The example of the touchstone is applicable to the theory of emanation. The touchstone can convert an unlimited quantity of iron into gold, and still the touchstone remains as it is. Similarly, the Supreme Lord can produce all manifested worlds by his inconceivable energies, and yet he is full and unchanged. He is Purna, complete, and although an unlimited number of Purnas emanate from him, he is still Purna. This example of touchstone is very nice. It is directly taken from the scriptures. The Vishnu Purana talks about how the Supreme Being has intrinsic, extraordinary, inconceivable potencies. So the idea is he is not subject to any transformation. Vikaradhyai shunyaha. He is free from any transformations. It has been very clearly declared in the Upanishads that the Supreme Absolute Truth is not transformed. So if he is not transformed, then how can he be the source of this world? Because if you are the source for something, let us say you have 10,000 rupees and I take 2,000 rupees from you, then your 10,000 rupees is now transformed into 8,000 rupees. So your wealth is transformed. But this does not apply to the Supreme Absolute Truth, who has been compared to the touchstone. The touchstone can turn iron into gold, but the touchstone does not change its nature. Similarly, the Supreme Lord, he can produce all the manifested worlds which are complete. He is also complete, but even though they emanate from him, he does not diminish. He is not in any way lesser. This is of course a very famous point that is brought up in the scriptures several times, and you'll find it as the invocation for the Ishopanishad too. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. So the idea is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is actually the source of this world. So the theory of emanations is accepted because it is taught in the Vedanta Sutra right from the very beginning, right from Sutra number 2, Janmadyasya Yataha. So the theory of emanations is accepted. Now there's another theory called the theory of illusion, which Prabhupada now deals with here. The theory of illusion of the Mayavada school is advocated on the ground that the theory of emanation will cause a transformation of the absolute truth. If that is the case, Vyasadeva is wrong. To avoid this, they have skillfully brought in the theory of illusion. But the world or the cosmic creation is not false as maintained by the Mayavada school. It simply has no permanent existence. A non-permanent thing cannot be called false altogether. But the conception that the material body is the self is certainly wrong. The theory of illusion of the Mayavada school is advocated on the ground that the theory of emanation will cause a transformation of the absolute truth. What does this mean? This means that the Mayavadis say that you cannot say that the world actually emanates from the supreme absolute truth, and Vivartavada has been brought out. Vivartavada means the theory of illusion, that Brahman, the absolute truth, somehow becomes deluded. But if you accept that, then you are basically saying Vyasadeva is wrong. Another point that should be noted is the world is not false. If you take up the definition of falsity as conveyed by the Mayavad school, the Bhagavatam and the Vedic literatures do not mean to say that the world is false the way Shankaracharya's followers say that it is false. Prabhupada writes here, this is the book Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this is chapter 87, Prayers by the Personified Vedas. The Mayavadi philosopher's theory that it is false, meaning that the world is false, is certainly only a mental concoction. That the cosmic manifestation is flickering and temporary does not mean that it is false. The definition of falsity is that which never had any existence but which exists only in name. For instance, the eggs of a horse or the horn of a rabbit or the flower in the sky are phenomena which exist only in name. There are no horse's eggs, there is no rabbit's horn, and there are no flowers growing in the sky. There are many things which exist in name or imagination but actually have no factual manifestation. Such things may be called false, but the Vaishnava cannot take this material world to be false simply because of its temporary nature. It's manifesting and again dissolving. So therefore, we do not accept the conception that the world is false as it is been conceived of by the Advaitavada school. There is a difference between the world being temporary and the world being false. The conception that the material body is the self is certainly wrong. Now, the conception that I have when I imagine that my body is myself, that is wrong. So it is certainly false to imagine that the material body is the self. Pranava, Om, or the Omkara in the Vedas is the primeval hymn. This transcendental sound is identical with the form of the Lord. All the Vedic hymns are based on this Pranava Omkar. Omkara has been greatly stressed. Even in the Upanishads, we find that it has been very, very greatly stressed.